Welcome to this lead recording. Today's recording will focus on the MSHSL Investigative Checklist. Please know that Lisa, Phil, Charlie, and I have all worked on this presentation. We've had an active fall with administrators working with students regarding potential violations. Again, we hope this recording and checklist is a resource you do not have to utilize during this school year. But if you do, the following checklist will assist, especially if your investigation is challenged. The purpose of today's recording, again, is how to utilize the checklist and to make sure that you are aware of the investigative checklist. Please make sure that your school has a process, if not, how you might create an investigative process, and then making sure that you understand how investigating violations of bylaws for student participant should occur. In the end, we'll talk about communicating the outcome of the violation in writing with the student's parents. Throughout this recording, just a reminder, we will be referencing Bylaws 205 on chemical eligibility, Bylaw 206 on code of responsibilities, 209 on harassment and violence, and the 300 series of bylaws. Before we focus on the investigative checklist and process, we encourage you to take a look at your eligibility resources on your dashboard. We also recommend creating a shortcut for eligibility resources. The current slide shows resources located under eligibility resources. Please note that the investigative checklist is third from the bottom on this list of resources. This slide reflects the current investigation checklist. Please note that we will be updating the checklist later this year to ensure the language is current and matches legal trends. The first portion of the checklist shows that the investigation begins when you have received information that there is an alleged MSHSL violation. If your district uses a Tennyson warning or notice, make sure you give the notice to the students at this time. There is an example of a Tennyson notice at the bottom of this checklist. Ask yourself, is the information credible? Where did it come from? And might it show possession or consumption or behavior that is unbecoming of a student participant? Is the information valid? And is the source reliable? You as an admin team need to have a process or create a process that you use in all investigations. Please investigate MSHSL violations like any other incidents that occurred during the school day. Reference bylaws 205, 206, 209, and the fair hearing procedure in bylaw 300. In your investigative process, please consider when you're interviewing a student or students, will you do so alone or will you do so with another member of your admin team? Remember that there is no such thing as an automatic violation. You must investigate. Remember that a student will begin to communicate, or students will begin to communicate, once you have that initial conversation. Popular question we get is around the denial penalty. If a student denies and is found to be in violation, please remember the denial penalty is found in bylaw 304.2. At the end of the checklist, it focuses on how you conclude an investigation. Please remember that once the investigation begins, you have 10 days to complete the investigation. We also recommend communication with parents that you have receipt, either a letter from the U.S. mail or an electronic receipt of the letter sent to the parents. Please remember that if there is a request for a fair hearing, that it's not unconditional. If a student admits to the violation, neither admits nor denies, but accepts the penalty, a fair hearing is not required. In summary of today's recording, remember how you're going to utilize the investigative checklist, how best to utilize your admin team, What is your school's process for investigating? And making sure that you protect yourself, your student participants' eligibility, and your school district. This concludes today's investigative checklist recording. Hopefully you do not have to utilize this very often this season, but best of luck. Look forward to future recordings of this nature on Minnesota State High School League rules, policies, and bylaws.